Oh, hello there. Welcome back to the Agostinho Zinga Show with me, your host, Agostinho Zinga, and this is episode number 341. That's tres cuatro uno. Tres cuatro uno. Wherever you may be living, wherever you may be situated, that's the numbers that I know off my head. Okay? I'm bilingual. Don't take the piss out of me. Don't get annoyed. It is what it is, isn't it? It's a gift I got from my parents. But yeah, how you doing? How you feeling? Great, amazing. How am I? I'm awesome, man. Got a little mug of tea here that I'll be sipping in the background. Don't mind me. I do like to slurp often, so if you are perturbed by the slurping, then what can I do? You might have to just hit that mute button on your little laptop or lower it if you got one of those old laptops. Do laptops still come with those little wheels? To increase or decrease the volume. I wonder if that's still a thing. You know, the little wheel do. That's a weird motion in it to be looking at the camera, but yeah. Hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are good, man. I'm feeling pretty nice. I've just had a little bit of an evening run. I did 8 200-meter repeats at a little bit near my house. I'm feeling a little bit tired, a little bit exhausted, but in a good way, That's why working. I shouldn't be saying this because I'm just talking to myself in this regard, but that's why it's important to make sure you work out every day because it does go a long way in terms of like suppressing your appetite, making you sleep at like a normal time, right? I've noticed when I don't work out and I'm just hanging around due to quarantine and lockdown, you end up just staying up until ungodly hours just doing nothing, right? Watching random videos on YouTube, ending up on random forums and just constantly wasting time. So if you get into some kind of physical exercise activity, whether it's skipping, whether it's doing a couple of push-ups or sit-ups, I think it does help to kind of just to kind of what's that phrase they use to when you sort of wind down the night. There's a phrase that a lot of fitness and bio body hacker dudes use. I forgot what the term is called anyway, but it doesn't matter. Who cares? Whatever you can do, try and do it every single day, so that once this thing is over, you've got some good habits. I'd hope in it, but people aren't really in that kind of vibe. It feels. I think that people are just throwing their hands up in the air. They're like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm not going to do anything more extra than I need to do, which is sad, but I can understand the sentiment for sure. But yeah, what else has been going on? United missed. Oops, gonna miss move the camera a little bit there because it's a bit too far away. Right, is that good? Yeah, that's far. United missed the opportunity to go third or to at least push Chelsea right into the end. We ended up drawing 1-1 to Southampton, which isn't a bad result. I think, all things considered, Southampton are a good side. Um, and I think it's a good reminder. I think we've got such a weird fan base being a United fan. The fan base is so peculiar. I think maybe because of all the years of success, and now we've gone through, a bit of a prolonged period of being a little bit crap. People have kind of really got a warped idea as to what's going on, right? We have a couple of good wins, and then everyone thinks we don't need to sign anybody. Everything's okay. Then we lose one game, and all of a sudden, the heavens are going to open up. It's a very bizarre thing to see. But I do quite enjoy the reality checks, to be honest, because I do think in the long term, we probably do still need a director of football to be in place, just so he or she can put some things in place exactly to kind of set some parameters as to what kind of player we are looking for, what kind of style of play we're looking to achieve, the kind of player, the profile, the age, the style of play, generally how we kind of interact with our fans, loads of things that kind of go on behind the scenes that needs to just be set in stone, so that whoever comes in as a manager is sort of like a little, you just slot them in. They're essentially like a USB drive instead of it being a complete, taking out the hard drive and replacing the RAM. No, it just needs to be a USB drive. You just plug in, boom, the person's success or not. If it's not, you pull out, you put another one in. But at the moment, even though it's going well with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I'm a bit worried because if it starts to go wrong, we have to replace him. We're just going to start back from scratch again. Not from scratch, obviously, because the players will be a lot better than what we had previously, but it's still from scratch. Another manager might come in and not fancy some of the players that Ole Gunnar saying, and then all of a sudden you're kind of left with trying to write checks to sign a whole new squad to appease that new manager that you brought in. So I don't know, man. It's a really weird time, but it's also beneficial because I think all these years of watching football and you know uh, subjecting myself to like mindless talk radio sort of like call-in shows on Talksport and the like, and the years watching stuff on YouTube and fan cams has made me sort of numb to people that just rant and rave and have opposing views to mine. You just learn to just like either selective hearing or just to kind of mute it out and not really paying any attention. So I don't really get riled up that much when things don't go my way. I think that's like my assumption why I can be so you know nonplussed about things sometimes, because sometimes you sit there with somebody, especially when you're watching it at the stadium or in the pub. You're sitting with somebody, or you're sitting next to a stranger, and you're looking at exactly the same thing, and you get different conclusion as to what you just saw at exactly the same time. It's really peculiar, and sometimes people's biases or just their whatever they like to see is just going to come to the forefront. And who am I to tell them that they're doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing? It is not really my place. So what can you do? But I think it set me up for a good thing, actually, especially with everything going on now, with everyone arguing online and debating and crying and moaning and all that stuff. It kind of puts you in a good position because you can just observe it from the outside and be like, whoa, man, you mofos are crazy. You mofos are crazy. But anyway, enough rambling about that. Oh, that's good tea. Before I get started, I want to talk about a couple collections that I've seen during Paris Fashion Week for men's. I was a bit confused about the schedule. I just assumed they were going to scrap 2021 for some reason. I don't know why, but I guess all the kind of news I saw online, I didn't click on, about digital shows and streaming was basically what they ended up doing. They ended up putting together shows that allowed, they ended up basically streaming the shows online the same way they do during regular fashion calendar, during a regular fashion week and stuff. So that makes I guess that wasn't too difficult. I guess in some respects maybe they had to change the actual runway itself where they were going to actually show the show. Maybe they kind of changed the layout, or they just changed it completely so they kind of fit more into how being better presented online in terms of streaming. But I liked it so far. I think the only exception I think that I didn't really like was, maybe it's a bit of a stretch to say, Rick Owens. I think Rick Owens suffers from just taking from just pictures online. You kind of need Rick Owens is probably one of the only shows during the Fashion Week calendar that I actually go and watch on YouTube the whole way through. It goes a long way to kind of get the overall vibe of the season, to see the clothes in motion, to see how certain things drape, to see how they fall, just to see how they fit on the model. Of course, you can't necessarily have any idea it's going to fit on you because the models are usually sample size, but just to kind of get a kind of an impression in your head what it kind of looks like, you kind of need to see it in motion and on the body. So just seeing some pictures of the model Tyrone just standing on a white wall, stark, it didn't really give it the necessary punch that it needs. Don't get me wrong, it can work. I think the Montclair and Rick Owens stuff that he did maybe last season, where he's just like modeling it himself, that looked really good just with pictures. We didn't get to see a runway, but I don't know, maybe because they were like, really well done pictures. I don't know. I don't know how to say it, but, and they'll, you saw a lot of detail in the pictures that were taken. Maybe that was a good thing, but that was a new collection I didn't really like. But for the most part, I think everyone else did a good job. But I want to quickly start off with a few shows that I thought were of interest to me, and I guess the best way to start this off would probably be to say the show that I didn't necessarily get, and this is something that I will say with all due respect again, because I don't really know who this guy is. I don't know anything about his background. I don't know anything about whatever, but just subjectively from the outside looking in. Again, I'm not. I think I've said this constantly on here before. I'm not really one that subscribes to the ideology of white privilege, or to the mindset of white privilege. I don't really suffer from victimhood. I don't look at every situation and delineate that is some kind of power play or some sort of racial injustices at work. I don't necessarily like to do those things because I don't think it's useful. I think those things exist for sure, but I don't think it's useful in terms of getting forward in life and making something of yourself, right? You kind of have to just, I always say you kind of have to work within the work within the world as it is, as opposed to as how you'd want it to be. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have your own challenges you're going to face, whether they be based on your race, color, creed, religion, whatever it may be, but you're just going to have to just get through it. And then once you get out the other side, you then have a position. And when you get a bit of money and you have a bit of status, you have a bit of clout, you got a bit of a network, you got, whatever it can be, you can then create your own little utopia, right? You can then go and start hiring your friends, getting people involved. That's the best way, I think, to really work things out. The whole idea about, smashing down the patriarchy, has, as noble as an act that is, I just think it's a proper waste of time and maybe resources that could probably be better spent trying to make your own thing pop off, and then for you to create your own little utopia as an example as to what can be achieved, and then let the market decide. And if the market decides your thing is better, that thing that's backed by the patriarchy will come tumbling down anyway. That's my point of view. Again, it's probably a little bit short-sighted, but that's just how I see things. But there are some occasions that make you think, this is odd. This is one of them, right? So I'm browsing all the Paris Fashion Week collections. I'm looking at what everyone's doing. I think, oh, it's amazing. And I see this brand pop up that, and I'm like, this doesn't look like it fits with everything. And it's a brand called Reese Cooper, right? And the only thing that I'm bringing up is that because I'm not a believer in white privilege, I sometimes think there are exceptions where you sometimes see something done, especially in the arts or in a creative field, that's incredibly mediocre, but it's not being called out in the same way that a non-white person's work would have been called out. And I use an example first off of maybe a recent example of Samuel Russell, The Cold War, and also use an example maybe a bit of a stretch because people love to hate him, but Virgil's a good example of it too, right? Two people that came into fashion with relatively, they'd probably say they were novices. I think in Virgil's case, he doesn't really like to even say he's a designer, but they both came into it, and essentially were learning on the job. But it needs to be said that I think Virgil's first collection and Samuel Ross's first collection for A Cold War were far better than what this guy's put together. And he's probably got backing and he's got, investment behind him, resources and stuff to make this stuff. And, I'm sure putting on a show in the middle of the forest somewhere isn't cheap. And the clothes are just really I don't know, again, maybe it's just I don't get it and I'm not really seeing what the vision is, but there's nothing interesting about it. There's nothing memorable about it. It's incredibly forgetful. If you told me this was if someone told you this was opening ceremony, you wouldn't bat an eyelid, right? It's just, and I say that because I do like opening ceremony, but they're just, they are a bit schizophrenic when it comes to the references and themes they have for their collections. Nothing usually ties together. Usually whatever they're interested or inspired by during that season, they just plop it onto a collection. There was nothing really, there was no real rhyme or reason why they'd have a floral hoodie one season and then a yellow MAC next, just whatever they wanted to do. So the same could be said for this, right? It's just, you slap whatever brand on it and you'd believe it. If someone told you this was Michael Kors, you'd probably believe it too. It's just really basic, and that's the only issue I have with it, of this thing. It's like, fair enough, you're going to give those guys a hard time, Samuel Ross and Virgil, right? I guess in Virgil's case, he can come across a bit wanky. Maybe in Samuel Ross's case, maybe because he's so young, it can be a bit intimidating and whatever, right? They can have their things that you are not fans of, but you have to judge people's work critically. You have to be honest and just kind of say, okay, they're obviously learning on the job. They obviously don't have the experience that some of these other fashion mainstays have. And as we've seen with what Kanye has done with Yeezy, it's really, really important that you have the infrastructure behind you. Because now we know why Kanye was complaining about. Remember, he was ranting and raving that he didn't have the backers that Stella McCartney has, because he knows. He's been in a room with Stella McCartney and he knows, Stella McCartney's brain in fashion, or her ability to make clothes, isn't at a higher level than his. It's just that she has access to the best talent, to the best factories, to the best textile makers that can, put her vision to work. It kind of reminds me of that scene from that Karl Lagerfeld documentary where he sketched something on a bit of paper, hands it to somebody in Italy, and then, a few hours later, it's actually been made into a real thing. Designers or creatives need that. I think everyone knows that. And even if you're making beats in your bedroom, the more equipment you get, the more access you have to better equipment, the sooner you can get your own recording studio maybe away from your home, so you can kind of have some time to actually lock in, the more your work improves. So, those tools and those resources are really important, especially when the margins are so thin, right? Because, evidently, for the most part, maybe apart from, I don't know, I can't think of a designer that is really, really garbage. But for the most part, as long as you get your foot through the door, you're going to be given some some assistance to make it work, right? Whether it's hiring a whole gang of CSM interns, or whether it's just copying designs from archive fashion shows and hoping no one notices. There's going to be a way for you to make it work. So when you don't, it's always a bit of a surprise. But people need to be given a bit of room to grow in it. That's really the issue that I have with this. So it's like, you go and hammer Samuel Ross and Virgil when they're doing their first collection, or even Kanye's first in Paris. Let's think about what the reviews. You remember the reviews when Kanye presented his first fashion show in Paris that he funded himself? Do you remember how he got smashed for that? And then look at the stuff that Reese Cooper is doing. It's just, yeah, man. I don't know. And again, it's a shame really, because obviously he's a young kid and he's gonna have a lot. He's obviously gonna evolve and grow and probably become a far better designer than he is now. And I'm pretty sure of it. Fashion is one of those things. Over time, you just end up getting it. It's just one of those things. It's rare that you see someone doesn't get it over a period of time, or you end up just carving out a little niche for yourself, and you end up having a dedicated group of fans and buyers that just love the stuff that you do, and you get a bit stale, but it works, right? I look at somebody like Alexander Wang is a good example, right? Don't get me wrong, he's supremely talented as a fashion designer, but it's pretty samey. But he's got his tribe. He's got his people that that are always gonna buy his stuff season in, season out. So this might be it, but I don't know, man. I just look at the stuff and think to myself, does this really belong in Paris Fashion Week? Like, is this really what we're doing? And I don't know. And maybe that's what I said previously in the other thing about how to make it in streetwear. That might be the reason why it's so important. This is another illustration why it's so important to make sure you have a good network, because sometimes just being able, because who knows, he might be a really good, cool dude, right? He might be the kind of kid that always turns up on time on shoots, gets hands in work before the deadline, is always on hand for you if you need any assistance, and just generally is a good sounding board to bounce ideas off. Isn't too needy, he's just carries himself really well. Doesn't get too fucked up during store event openings, whatever they may be. Just carries himself well. So that goes a long way. So when you say, hey, I want to start a brand, and your friends are influential and they've got access to venture capitalists, access to factories and stuff, they're going to open every single door for you to make it happen. So sometimes, as annoying, and again, I don't even design clothes, I'm just saying, for somebody that does, I understand it could be annoying to see this on a runway, but I also think it should be a wake-up call for you to kind of get out there and essentially make that network, try and connect the dots, try and expand your reach, try and connect with people maybe overseas, whatever they may be, especially on social. There's no excuse now. You can sign in people's DMs, follow people, whatever it may be, tag them in your pictures. There's no real excuse to kind of expand your network, but it's really important, because if people like Reese Cooper, if someone like a Reese Cooper can have a show on the Paris Fashion Week calendar, especially for men's, right? It's one of the most coveted spots, I'd imagine, for men's, where all the streetwear brands go and show or have showrooms that they book out there during that season, because all the big buyers of all the stores are out there during that time. So this is no small thing. And of course, from what it looks like it's been well made and it's produced really well, but in terms of just objectively, whether it's good or bad, it's not really good at all, in my opinion. And again, it goes to show that sometimes it does seem as if there is a bit of a unfair stick given to young black designers when they're coming up, especially when they don't have any backing and their stuff isn't as polished. I'd love to imagine what Sammy Ross's stuff would have looked like if he would have come out straight out the gate, with that funding, straight out the gate with the backing of whatever group that's invested in him now, how it would have been received. But he tried to, he was doing it all bootstrapped and whatever it may be, and for the most part, you could see there was something there. There was an ember. There was something there that you could think, okay, this guy's got something. But you look at this and you're like, if someone told you that was like a capsule collection for Topshop Man or something, you would never bat an eyelid. But here it is on Paris Fashion Week. Weird one, man. Again, maybe I don't know and I don't get it, and you can leave me a comment, let me know if Reese Cooper is like this seminal brand that I've not really heard of. It's like the new, it's like Gosha Rubczynski, redo, right? It's just come out of the woodwork. It's something that people are talking about, but I don't know, brother. I don't know if this is really the thing, but for me, it's not. But anyway, let's move on to something that I do actually like. What did I like in the shows I've seen so far? Number one, of course, this is obviously a resort show, so it's not really fair, because resort shows are it feels like to me, resort fashion shows are like an opportunity for the designers to just flex some of the best of the previous season, right? or it's an opportunity for the fashion designer to essentially do what, because I don't know, I always say, if I was a fashion designer, I would love making a diffusion line. That would be, I always said, if I did it, I'd do it upside down. I'd start with a diffusion line and then work up to the main line, just to kind of shake things up a bit. But I still think there's something in the ability. There's something to be said, for having the ability to make, really transient, sort of like, easily consumed fashion items for the general public on that high level. I think there's really something to it, like the ability to make like a really good coin purse, a really good card holder, lanyard, belt, socks, scarves, knit caps, snapback hats, right? There's something, backpacks. There's something about being able to do that really well and sell it to like a broad audience that, I think people kind of poo poo a bit, but that's real design, you know that's real design skill. And then somehow taking the learnings from that and fine tuning it as much as you can, laser sharpening your focus, and then making an absolute luxury brand at the top. I'd love to do it that way. But I think resort lines, that's why I love them, and they're so fun to me, because they seem like an amalgamation of like the best hits of the previous season, or of the season that's coming after, right after the fact, which is going to be 2022, autumn winter, or just an opportunity for you to kind of flex your muscle and show what you would be able to do if you had a diffusion line. And Balenciaga does it the best, I think, in that regard. The resort collections are usually some of my favorites. And this one from 2021 is a good example of it. Obviously, with COVID-19, they presented it in a sort of, taking inspiration from, I'm guessing, their buying sheet. When you go into the showroom, it's essentially broken down into every piece is broken down on the side there, a breakdown of materials, and exactly, and the product code, which is super handy for, serial geeks like myself. You can note down a piece, because sometimes, as well, part of the reason why fashion is annoying, because a lot of stuff you see in the runway, you don't see it in stores, right? So some of the stuff, depending on how many stores actually go out and buy it, really dictates whether or not they actually put it into production, or just in general, it's just a showpiece. They're just going to flex their muscles on the runway. But sometimes you can get lucky, and they can make a couple of those pieces that you want, that weren't really that well requested, but you need to know what it actually is, right? So it's either you rock up there with your cracked iPhone with an image from the Vogue runway, and then get shamed by the store systems that make you feel poor, or or if you're smart, you try and get a hold of the product code and just give them a call and put on your best posh voice and try and get it reserved, and it sometimes works. So the ability to see what the actual product code is for this, for each look, is amazing, man. So I'm really thankful by seeing that. But I think overall, just in terms of what they put out, especially some of the more baggier, voluptuous, jackets, they're all over. I've kind of had a bit of a moment where I'm thinking about getting a nice camel or light brown overcoat that I can wear over some of my, light denim pieces. But I like the addition of wearing it over an all black look. That's not something I generally do, but I quite like that kind of styling tip on there. The shoes are interesting in this look here. I'm not. This is what, look 5 or 41. It's that kind of Tyrex boot shoe thing. Um, I'm not sure what he's doing with the footwear, Dasher. I mean, Demna. I'm not sure if he's, purposely trying to push his consumer into the more freakier end of the footwear choices, or if he's trying to challenge himself as a designer to see how far he can push that ugly delicious. No, is it ugly beautiful? So how he's gonna sort of like balance on that line between pure ugly and delightful. And at the moment, I'd say that Tyrex shoe, whatever it is not my cup of tea. I think, is it Tyrex? What is it? Ring, shoes, earrings, booty. Okay, no, it's a buckle knife flat booty, whatever that is. I'm not a fan of it at all. But some of the bits I do like is this jacket here. I just passed this jacket, whatever this is. I unfortunately lost my Balenciaga padded flannel, the same flannel that Travis wore and a few other people. I think Kanye wore them a few times too. I had it in navy, the same color, and I left it in a cloakroom at a warehouse party, and pew, it went away. So whoever's got it out there, if you're enjoying it, enjoy it. But if I see you on road, it's on. But no, this is sort of similar to the sort of, same flannel I had, pinstripe print on the upper. I'm not sure if it's essentially a rain jacket. It doesn't say what the composition of it is. It's a light parka here. Composition is entirely polyester, so I'm assuming it's sort of like a, like a Mac that's proportions have been twisted somewhat. But I just love the look of it. It's fairly basic of a look. I know some people won't agree, but I think overall, in terms of volume, in terms of shape, this is definitely what I'm on. All vibes, baggy jeans. Probably the five finger shoes I could miss. You can miss me on the five finger shoes. That's not something I'm ever gonna wear. And I don't think I don't know. There's something about those five finger shoes when you're above a size 8, it just doesn't run. I don't think it runs at all. It's not for me. And of course, a nice little addition here, an all black look with some pink shoes. The knits on here are really nice. Again, great overcoats, and of course the bags are beautiful. I'd easily wear that. Really, really easy wear that. Great casting. I love how they braided her hair as well. It looks really awesome. Great overcoat. Is that a little tote bag? I didn't actually see that before. Detail there. A nice little shopper. Where is that? Yeah, it's a shopper medium shoulder tote bag. Um, I gotta say some of the text print things on the coat I'm not really a fan of. I think they did this on another coat they did from a previous season where they kind of print it all over. I'm just not a fan of logos printed all over my stuff anymore. I probably made one of the main reasons why I probably stopped wearing Supreme. It's just not a thing. So I'm not really a fan of all this stuff, but I guess it sells really well for them, so they're gonna do what they got to do. And then another one I want to show you, of course, the styling on this looks great with the blue overcoat and whatever that is. That knife shoe again? Oh, those shoes look amazing with the buckles. Okay, knife buckle booty look great. So obviously some of the styling bits on here look really awesome. Again, what a great look here. This camo full set denim looks really awesome. Great jacket here as well with the sock heels. Another great, they always make great parkas. Balenciaga are really underrated in their ability to make parkas. I'm not sure if it's him going out and going to vintage shops, because a lot of it seems like the kind of jackets that you'd get from like a charity shop, right? Those kind of jackets that an old lady would kind of hand over. Super big, padded, really basic closures, plastic zips, shabby sort of like snap buttons on it. But he seems to get whatever that shape is and size, and kind of, does his own little thing with it, uses it as a pattern. I'd imagine so, because the Parker shapes are always, always on point. Really, really good. Again, a nice Parker there. And then the last couple of looks I think I really liked were one with the sweater, the jumper. I'm going to see if I can quickly find it here and move on to another collection that I liked. Yeah, this look. This is one of my favorite looks as well. This look here, this guy's got on. He's got a pair of pink frame sunglasses, a nice Kelly green jacket with the same sort of print pants that I liked on the other Parker before. So blue pinstripe and some nice bright sandals with the matching socks. Like this look is, I'd wear the hell out of that look. And then the next one I think I liked as well. Of course, that look is great. The all neon tracksuit is amazing as well. And this look is awesome. This is basically my favorite. This kind of encapsulates, what I love about Balenciaga, the ability to take, really basic mundane pieces like a long sleeve t-shirt, mess about with the proportions. The cuffs are a little bit wider than you'd maybe see on most kind of long sleeve t-shirts, a bit longer in the body, some nice cargo pants, which have been, cargo pants have been everywhere over the last couple of seasons, it feels like. So they've kind of, Balenciaga stepped into the fray and offered their take on cargo pants with some nice front pockets here, which I love and adore. Sometimes having the pockets on the side makes you look a bit more frumpy than what you need. So I love the things in the front. Makes you look a bit more tactical. And then the five finger shoes. And that's the beauty of styling. When you're really good at what you do and you've got the code set in place, you can make the most deadest of things look good. And they made these five finger shoe thingies look absolutely nice, actually. So credit to them and what they're doing there, man. But yeah, Balenciaga's one of my faves. And then lastly, we move on before I bore you to death with this, is undercover. Mainly because the models are all, I think there's 3D scanned, it looks like. They're computer generated, it looks like. So that's pretty cool. I'm assuming they probably did the same thing they do with when you play like FIFA. And you see them making a game, and they kind of have that black suit, and they covered all in green dots. So maybe they sort of did that in terms of scanning their bodies, and then they sort of overlaid the clothes on top, or maybe they just put the clothes on and just scanned. I don't know which way, where way they did it. It's been computer generated, and on top of this, we got a look on interpretation of sandals done really well, because I always get cussed out for the sandals that I wear by some of my friends, but I think they did the sandals really cool in this. And then we've also got the introduction or the reveal of a new Nike collaboration that I think has dropped already. I think news is released out of this. So this is a new Nike collaboration that they've got in place. Kind of looks a bit similar to the Mars Yard model. That looks really cool. But one of my interesting places or pieces that I thought was interesting in the collection was this. Let's see if I can find it. It was a look here that reminded me of the golden era of Hedi Slimane at Saint Laurent, with the skinny jeans and the biker boots and the tight jackets. But in this regard, John Takahashi went with a bit more of a volume of shape at the top, so a little bit more Kurt Cobain and less, I don't know, killers. Right? Look at that. That's like, look, what's that look? Look, number 25 from 42 on Undercover Spring Summer 21 menswear. He's got this. It looks like, I'm gonna say it's a bomber jacket. I'm gonna say with embroidery on the chest, some great pieces of jewelry here, pearl necklace, another chain link, some great shades, skinny jeans, and the kind of biker boots that, oh, what would they call them? Saint Laurent Wyatts, yeah, similar to that. So you've got the sort of chain that goes underneath the boot and towards the back. Hopefully they jingle. I want my boots to jingle a bit as well. That look really cool. But they look banging, man. I'd wear the hell out of both looks. And then the same with this look, number 26. You've got a nice little overshirt here, vibe with a dog collar chain. Painted nails looks sick again with the boots and the cuffed. It looks like cuffed hems on the jeans as well. Great little detail there. Just in general, and again, look at that look, number 27. That is me head to toe, mate. That is me. Madness. Such a good look, man. I love the pearl necklace too. That's a good little addition. Don't know what it says down the jacket, but yeah. Those have been some of my standouts from Paris Fashion Week 2021. Balenciaga and Undercover. And of course Rick Owens, but Rick Owens was a bit naff because you just saw the images. But so far, so good. Anyway, let's move on. I'm actually sweating this thing is really good because it keeps you warm, but you end up getting really hot. But hey ho, what can you do? Let's move on in. Next on the list, what else I have to talk about here before I leave you? Oh yeah, legendary freak out. So this was really interesting. uh we don't get I'm a little bit jealous, right? With everything that's going on in the world, it seems as if we've been left in the UK. We've been left behind somewhat when it comes to the public freak out videos, like the rush of people uploading Karen videos all over the place. It seems like the UK doesn't really have the same sort of luck. I think we have that little ingredient that Americans tend to not have. Yeah, it's called shame. I think for the most part. So even the most do-goodery, what you call it, snitch of a person, right? A real tattletale. I don't think they'd want to put themselves through that kind of public embarrassment, because they don't want to get embarrassed online. They don't want to feel like they've kind of made a fool of themselves. And the one thing in the UK that we're known for is piss taking. So you can just imagine if a UK Karen got involved in some sort of spat with a 12-year-old kid in Asda, she won't be able to live that down forever. That would follow her till her grave. So I think we're a bit more aware of our surroundings and aware of the kind of stick we're going to get from our friends. But it's not to say that doesn't happen, because there's one legendary video that I'm about to play for you. I think happened, I'm assuming somewhere in England, because they've got English accents, but it kind of reminds me of the beauty of what I still love about American freakout videos. It's a guy in his car. He's, I'm guessing, driving down some country lane somewhere, And a little country town, little quaint houses, idyllic and peaceful. The kind of place that you would be hard pressed to have a fight with anybody, let alone with a cyclist. He rocks up to a cyclist. I'm assuming they got into some kind of altercation before the video starts, but they get into some kind of argument. They go back and forth, and essentially the car driver is angry that the cyclist is taking up too much room on the road. You know, it's the standard sort of argument. And what transpires after that is just something, you know, that can only be remembered for the ages. But I want to play it just because I think it's a bit fun and it kind of makes me laugh.
Too close, mate. You passed me way too close.
Mate, how fucking big is that bicycle? Do you need
passed
to
me
drive
with
in the
that
road?
distance.
Well, you're fucking lucky that I didn't hit you then, didn't you? If you'd have actually had the decency to go over one side instead of taking the whole fucking
What,
road.
into the door
like a
zone?
tank.
Into
No.
the door
Are
zone?
you a fucking tank? No. Are you a car? No.
I love a good British rhetorical question. Are you an effing tank? And I'm pausing the video now, but if you're watching via the audio only, or if you're listening via audio only, oh my God, my brain. If you're listening via the audio podcast, this is a very quaint, quiet, lovely little town somewhere in England, right? Where people leave their front door open properly, where the milkman puts a glass of milk in front of your door, right? Where you are asked maybe to look after your neighbor's dog whilst they go out for a run, right? It's just a beautiful little town. And how can this guy be that angry? It doesn't make any sense.
You're a fucking little bicycle, but you seem to want to be in the middle of the road.
Okay.
Well, that's your problem, you get knocked off.
Is that...
And what I love about this too is the bicycle, the cyclist, of course, is, you know, the Mr. Condescending king, right? He's being very, you know, very matter of fact about, no, not matter of fact, yeah, he's giving him one word answers. He's sort of being a little bit patronizing, and essentially he's not really feeding him anything, right? He's not really giving him an excuse to kind of hit him, because people can do that, right? They can push your buttons to the point where you get irate and you do something stupid, but he's not doing that. He's just, you know, making a fool out of the situation and kind of taking it for what it is. It's a silly situation, but somehow the driver still manages to get himself all hot and bothered. It's a real skill, that, to make yourself angry even in the face of somebody that doesn't want to make you angry. That's a real talent.
Is that what it says in the highway code?
No, it says knock you cunts over.
Is that what it says?
Yeah. Fucking way.
That's very interesting. You're on camera. I'm going to put you on YouTube.
Put me on where you like and I'll fucking kill you.
Oh. Okay, you know, you're going to argue with the cyclist, you're going to get angry, you know, he's taking up room, his elbows are protruding, he's got those kind of annoying, pointy cyclist elbows that, you know, protrude, and he might knock off your wing mirror, and you're afraid of getting another GBH arrest, you know, on your record. You've got 7 already, you don't want any trouble, but you can't tell cyclists you're going to kill them, especially with a GoPro on their helmet. It's not the smartest thing to do.
I'm going to report you to the police.
Go on, then do it now.
This tape is going to go to the police.
Do it now. You're a
I will
fucking
do.
idiot. Do not ride. Where does the
I've got
highway
you.
code say you sit in the middle of the
It went from threats to kill to now suddenly they're debating about the highway code.
fucking road?
You can discuss it with the police. I'm reporting you.
Go for
I've
it
got
then.
your registration.
discuss
I've
it
got
with my
your
lawyer.
account.
And it's
Goodbye.
Peugeot 405.
I know what it is.
Yeah. And by the way, have you got insurance on your bicycle? No.
Yes.
Have you got a helmet on?
No.
I don't
Are
have
you
to wear a helmet.
But are you a sensible person?
Are you
No.
wearing a seatbelt?
Are you a sensible
Are you?
person?
I think that's what he triggered him, right? That's what he triggered him, because cyclist guy was being pretty, you know, he was being a bit of a smart ass, but he was just answering back, you know, questions and sort of like standing up for himself. But the moment he sort of gets a bit closer to the window, peers over and notices the driver doesn't have a seatbelt, he then pressed that button. Seatbelt was effectively like, you know, this guy's N-word, right? He just got triggered. He just like, no one's ever going to tell me that I'm not wearing my seatbelt. How dare you? And it just goes downhill from
Wearing
there.
a seatbelt?
No, you're not.
No, you are
No,
not.
because I've just took it off.
No, exactly, and you're on the road. So there it is.
Just
I've got you
go.
for 2
Fuck
offences.
Go
Two
fuck
offences.
I'm gonna fucking get.
Are you? That's it.
Look how angry he is.
Interesting.
Oh, I love it. It
You're on
continues.
camera.
Take your fucking
You're on
There it
camera.
goes.
Excuse me. Would you like that broken? Would you like it broken?
The driver's now outside of the car, and he's grabbed a hold of the camera, as you can hear.
No, don't touch
Can't
it.
see
Would you like it
anything.
broken? Right, well get a fucking life or I'm gonna sort you out and your fucking camera.
Oh, that's a threat. You know that he means. Now look,
Yep,
he rings the bell.
Car.
I've got a car.
Have you? You probably get banned from it.
You've just committed an assault.
He gets back into his car, and this is what I'm wondering now. What triggers this guy to get? He got out of his car to confront the cyclist, roughed him up a little bit, put his hand over his camera, did that whole like mad white guy thing that people do in England, like why are you? Start staring at you like he's gonna lips you or something. He did that whole angry thing, got back into his car. What made him get back out?
Legal.
The cyclist
Yeah,
goes,
put your
boss.
seatbelt on, that's
Put
good.
your fucking mouth shut!
Okay, so put your seatbelt back on.
You are really pissing me off.
I know I am.
And
Okay.
you do this for a hobby?
That's what he did.
Fucking annoy people.
Okay, that's what got him. It was a little chuckle. That's what got him out of his car. That little chuckle got him out of his car.
I'm taking your camera. Right.
Look, and he just runs.
Try it.
He runs. The guy chases him from behind. We can't see nothing. But then we get the back view, the rear view of the argument.
Come on, you cunt.
Look at that technique. Oh, the fall is epic. The fall is one of my best falls to see, honestly. I mentioned it previously about, about enjoying, I have this macabre thing where I enjoy watching videos of girls falling over because they don't know how to brace. This is an excellent version of knowing how to brace, right? He's running, he's trying to kick the back tire of the bicycle that he's chasing, and as he's falling, look at that brace. Brilliant brace, right? Brilliant. Expert brace. As he's falling just off the sidewalk, he puts his hands in front of his face so that when he falls over, he kind of rolls onto his shoulder. So there's minimal damage. Of course, he's going to go home to his wife and have to explain why he's got grazes on his arms and why his face is red again. But apart from that, no real injuries, no fractures, no nothing crazy. But, the only thing that's been dented is his ego. And he lands on his head. Oh, absolutely epic, man. Absolutely epic. That cyclist deserves an award. That's the wind-up of the season, that one. Wind-up of the decade, even. Ugh, absolutely beautiful. Anyway, let's move on from that one. And let's talk about what's a good one to go into. People are raging over here. Yeah, let's say well done Virgil, actually. Yeah, let's give Virgil a little clap. So as you know previously from other episodes, you would have known that Virgil got himself in a bit of bother during the kind of the throes of the protest, right? During the whole, maybe the first couple of weeks or maybe the first week after the untimely death of George Floyd. He got himself in a bit of bother because of the donation that he screenshotted and uploaded to his Instagram stories, which I think was unfair. It was quite clear that he was doing this whole donation chain mail thing, but it got misconstrued as he was just donating $50. But in context, because previously to that, prior to that, he was posting stuff about being annoyed and being upset that kids were ransacking stores of his friends and associates, and then those friends and associates turned around and said, "It's no big problem. We can replace material items. If people want to rage out and get political, let them do it." That made him look a bit dumb, and then just various other things. But in general, people don't really like Virgil anyway. I've always said this. I think that's how cancel culture works, really. If they don't like you, they look for any reason to kind of get you, and then they sort of just like keep attacking until you basically kiss the ring. In this respect, it feels as if the misstep from Virgil wasn't that serious, so they kind of backed off of him a little bit. And the fact that he's the only prominent black fashion designer on the scene at the moment, it would be quite silly to essentially delete him or to get him off or to kind of take him off his platform just because you don't like his politics or just because you don't like the way he does something. I don't think that's necessarily a useful way to go about things. And in general, again, I think the guy he doesn't do himself any favors, but I think it's really unfair to say that he doesn't do anything for the black community. He does go above and beyond to surround himself with kids up and coming in the scene, mostly black kids, gives them jobs, gives them positions, puts them in rooms, introduces them to people, expands a network that he's done with himself. So that whole thing was really annoying and weird to see. But he has kind of rectified the situation. The stuff he was doing prior, where he was sort of like uploading everything he'd done with a black person, was really strange, because I think if a white person did that would be really performative. So I didn't really like that sort of side of things. And again, I'm not involved in all this sort of creative fashion reparations that's going on at the moment, where everyone wants to get rid of anybody that's got a prominent position that happens to be white and replace them with somebody black. I'm not really for that whole vibe, but I think the screenshotting of every piece of work that you've done that has, somehow had a black voice in it is a bit cringe. But I think what he's done now has been really awesome. It's really awesome. He's put together an initiative, a fund actually. I'm gonna say, is it an initiative or a fund? How would you phrase this? I haven't read this actually just yet. Let me see if it loads up. My computer is going slow. Okay, there we go. No, he set up a fund. Yes, this is from Virgil's Instagram profile, and quite cleverly put it together. Actually, I think it's really well done. And again, it's a good way to sort of like lean into the meme. He has taken on the whole two Virgils moniker, or the two Virgils insult, and sort of like use that as something that he can use to his advantage. So this is what it says. It says here too, this is Virgil Abloh's Instagram. It says tuition support for black students, fashion scholarship fund called the Postmodern, with obviously in quotation marks, scholarship fund initiated with $1 million raise. That's amazing. So here's a caption. It reads, anyone that's ever been in a meeting with me or creative brainstorm or even a random iMessage chat knows that I'm forever fighting for the 70-year-old version of myself. I'm not really a fan of that way of starting sentences. Anyone that knows me would know that I'm a good guy. It's like, but no one knows you, right? You just get into it. I don't really like that whole way of talking, because there's not a lot of people that have the opportunity to be in a room with you whilst you're doing these things anyway. So it's a moot point. But anyway, we proceed. It says, he says, what that specifically means is, all I want is for any young black kid to achieve a shorter path to their career goal. And if I can help with an open source approach to opening doors or messaging how I did it along the way, then I've done my real job, not my actual job. Okay, that's great point. He says, I'm putting my money, my resources, and my Rolodex where my mouth is, just keeping it two Virgils. Great. And again, great way to lean into a meme, great way to lean into an insult, great way to lean into an attempted cancellation. Because, again, like I said, I don't think people really want him to get cancelled. I think if anything, they probably wanted him to kiss the ring, to succumb to their wishes, to do the things as they want to do. But I'm also glad that he didn't do that. He didn't do any sort of performative gestures, and he just went about doing it like, let me try and rectify the situation the best way that I can do. And the best way he can do is, like, as he mentioned, he's going to put his money, his resources, his Rolodex, to work to allow the next generation of person that comes through to, get that platform and to be able to have that chance to just, to do what he done or better. And I've always said, even when everyone was complaining when he got the Louis Vuitton job, yeah, fair enough. He might not be the most skilled designer. His stuff might not be the most visually appealing if you're used to, the conventional fashion that's on the runway now at the moment, or whatever, or you just think it's plain old SISHIT. But I think his position is far more important in the fact that it's just an example. I think growing up, especially for me, I didn't really, growing up for me, I guess it might have helped to have seen somebody that looked like myself doing the things that I wanted to do. Because at the time I came up, who do we see? I saw Oswald Boateng. I saw, who else I saw that I think there wasn't a lot anyway of black designers out there, right? So the fact that he is, unabashedly a black designer, carries himself a certain way, surrounds himself with certain, flavor of people, it's going to serve as inspiration for someone else to come up. And maybe they don't do fashion, maybe they go into a completely different field, but you just need those examples, around. And I think it would have been a real loss if some of the woke Twitter mob would have been successful to essentially cancel him, because, we need people. I think everyone plays their part, right? In the same way Hood by Air plays their part, Virgil plays his part, Simon Rose plays his part. Everyone that's designing, everyone that happens to be black that was also designing in fashion, whether in various levels of success, whether they're Moss, whether they're somebody else, they all play their part. So they all kind of fit into this massive jigsaw piece that we all need to be in place to make things better for everybody. And that's why I think it's always going to be a benefit to it too. It won't just benefit black kids, it's going to benefit all kids coming up, because I think this generation, especially the ones that, what do you call them, Generation Z, the kids that exist on TikTok, they're a bit, they don't really see color in the same way that we do. And if they sort of brought up in a world where, you're surrounded by everybody under the sun, it might bode for a better future, maybe. Who knows? Anyway, it continues. It says the following. He says, I'm just keeping it two Virgils, or more accurately, that many Virgils in the slideshow above. I've started a scholarship fund for black students and raised 1 million so far. Pre-announcement with the same manic creative brainstorm that got me here with the support of my collaborators and the fashion scholarship fund. It's called the Virgil Abloh Postmodern Scholarship Fund. Link in the bio for more details. Email me there. The goal is to make sure I'm not one of few, but I'm one of many in my industry, which is bloody awesome to see, man. So again, great, well done to him. I think in the same way, we like to poke fun at people and have a bit of a laugh, which we did, because I think that two Virgil thing was absolutely hilarious. I think the fact that he was complaining about people breaking into shops, and the shop owners were like, hey, we don't really care, that was legitimately funny. The Pop Smoke cover was a legitimate LOL, but I think when someone does something good and they rectify a situation, and they, again, he didn't have to do this. He's got enough on his plate. He's a busy man. He could have just done, he could have just signed a couple of checks and kept it moving, but he probably took stock of the situation. Maybe he was saying, hey, even though people don't see the stuff I'm doing behind the scenes, I'm going to do even more, just to kind of put it out there that I'm not the bad guy that they're trying to paint out, which is a good thing, isn't it, in general? Maybe if even if it's performative, I think the benefits far outweigh the negative in that respect. Some kid somewhere, without much access to, the best schools or some of the best resources, going to be able to access that fund and maybe change the life, or change the lives of his family and generations to come forever. So this is really a monumental thing. So yeah, congratulations to him, man. Well done to Virgil. I think that's an awesome achievement. What else do we want to talk about here? What else I think? Oh, this is another one. So, with Corona and COVID-19, it seems like the lockdown has claimed a lot of unnecessary victims, I would say, right? A lot of people have been getting cancelled along the way. A lot of stray bullets have been shot, and people are just, it just seems like, because we've all been locked down, and industries have kind of come to a grinding halt, especially, the industry that I'm in, or not kind of in, that I'm in as a DJ, right, and as a dance music aficionado. That industry has essentially been, the rug's been pulled underneath from its feet. So people are at home, bored, penniless, and just depressed in it. So I don't blame people for kind of pointing fingers at other DJs or producers that are far more successful than they are, through maybe no fault of their own, and especially when they do loads of not unnecessary missteps, especially during the time and age that we're living in at the moment, with this social awakening, it seems like, with police brutality in America and racial injustice, all this stuff that's going on. I can understand why it can really grind your gears when you see somebody that happens to just not get it. And this is another good example of it. But I also think it's maybe a little bit over the top, some of the reactions. So what I'm talking about, this DJ called, I think this is how you pronounce her name. I think it's Serakin, right? Serakin. I've seen her play on that radio station in Berlin called Hoa, or Hoer, how you pronounce that name, Hoer. I think it's spelled phonetically, but it's actually pronounced with the double dot on the O. So I've seen her play on there a bit, hard style kind of DJ, your quintessential Berlin sort of like pretty girl DJ kind of style, I would say, right? Hard style, loads of jungle, fast, really aggressive style of play. Looks like she's having a ball behind the decks and has a great time. And just, somebody that seems like they generally have a lot of love for the music and for the scene, and they're kind of, doing their thing, got a little label going on, take lots of cute pictures, blah, 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 blah. The standard stuff that you know and love, right? What happened there? Don't know what happened there. The standard stuff that you know and love. Cool, no problem. So she ran into some issues, right? Online, based on this t-shirt that she put out. I'm going to get it up on here for you guys. This is a t-shirt where essentially techno Twitter, which is what they're referring it to, right? People online who are essentially quick to call out any sort of social faux pas someone does. Nah, that's not really fair. Techno Twitter is essentially, it acts as like a, how would you call it? It acts as a sound, maybe as a place where people can get held accountable for some of the most questionable things, because that's part of the reason why I was really upset when they got rid of the Resident Advisor comment section, because sometimes Resident Advisor can go on these long diatribes about nothing, post nonsense articles, crazy reviews, and the comment section was a good way to kind of gauge what was actually really going on. And sometimes you had you had trolls, you had fans, you had sycophants, you had haters, but sometimes you also had people that came in and say, hey, if you don't listen to what RA is saying, look at these other people who that person's been inspired by. They do far better things, or they're a far better artist, and it kind of give you a great understanding of what is going on in the scene. But with the comments gone, it's kind of hard to gauge exactly what the situation is. So Twitter's sort of like acted as that. So if anything, the deletion of the RA comments has maybe heightened the amount of vitriol that gets pushed on Twitter, really, for the most part. I think with the comments, it would have maybe dumbed it down a bit. But hey, so this girl called Sirikin, she makes this graphic, right? That I'm assuming she stole from somewhere else. So this is a tweet from a guy on Twitter. It says a Berlin-based fast techno DJ released a T-shirt with this on the back, and it's a screenshot of Sirikin's Instagram profile. It says "Fuck the BPM police." Now, the graphic itself isn't nothing to write home about, right? It's a bit run-of-the-mill, shitty graphic. No one really gives a shit. But, I'm a big fan of DJs making merch. I've said it from the get-go. I think it's a real untapped resource for DJs to kind of, build a bit of a fan base, build a bit of a fan club around their name, maybe an opportunity to, put on some of your friends and let them do some design work, an opportunity to maybe make something collectible for your fans to maybe buy when you do your tour. Just a great way to kind of engage people. And I've also said, people should be shameless if you're a DJ. You should be slinging these things after your set. You should go to every set with 30 t-shirts rolled into your bag. They just sell after you've played, cash in hand, whatever it may be. No shame in doing that whatsoever, because I think if I went to a gig, because sometimes buying those shirts online, having them shipped to your house, too much money. But if you can just buy them at a gig, I'd do it. But DJs can get a bit weirded out about that sort of stuff, and it might not be the best look in terms of clubs. They might not want you to do that. They might think it's a bit disrespectful. I don't know. Long story short, but I'm not a fan. I don't mind DJs doing merch, but obviously with what's going on in the world right now, the timing is a bit dead, in it. Like to put a t-shirt out that says "fuck the BPM police" with everything that's going on with police brutality, it probably isn't the right time. And this is where the whole kind of phrase "read the room" comes into play, which is quite ironic considering she's a DJ. She didn't read the room. She puts a t-shirt out and she gets absolutely ripped to pieces by people online, and justifiably so, right? But I think it went a bit too far, because she ended up kind of like writing a really sincere apology note that didn't really get any traction. The same people that were kind of ripping her to pieces because she made a t-shirt didn't really say much when she put the apology out, which kind of made me think that's a bit sinister, right? Fair enough, she made a mistake, or maybe she made 2 or 3, but if she rectified it and apologized, I think that should be enough. And I do think maybe the issue at hand isn't that she made the t-shirt, it's just more so what I mentioned previously about Reese Cooper. I think there is this idea, you are allowed to feel a little bit annoyed when you see somebody more successful in the field that you're in, when they've probably only been in, I think I've maybe looked online, I assumed that she might have been DJing, let's say, for 4 years, maybe less than that, and she's all over the place playing good gigs, part of a great little crew of girls. I forgot the other one she plays with, something Clara or something, I forgot her name, but part of a little cool scene of girls in Berlin that play everywhere. So I can understand why it can be annoying, but taking out your frustration on her is a bit unfair, because she's not really she's basically the symptom. She's not really the cause of what's going on in the scene at the moment. And then there's another little tweet here. I'll quickly show you. I think this is her actually wearing the t-shirt itself that she sold. Where is it? Yep, there it is. So this is from the Business Techno account, which you definitely follow, because it keeps you up to date with all the techno Twitter news that's going on. It says here, the caption says, what's going on? Who's going to bring police brutality towards... Huh? So who's going to bring police brutality towards black people to Sirikin's attention? Okay, there was never a better time to start selling limited shirts like these, eh? And this is just 1 week after the last apology. What last apology that she did 1 week ago? I apologized for my belly. Oh, she apologized for belly dancing. Okay, this is insane, bruv. So I'm assuming she's Tunisian or Moroccan or something, right? So that's why she's belly dancing. It's a cultural thing, but she's I guessing, did she do a dance that people thought she was twerking? I don't know what this is about, but let's stick with the fuck the BPM police one. So this is her modeling the shirt itself, and again, the graphic isn't anything right home to buy. It's not that big of a deal really, but you know, I get the sentiment, but it's just the timing. It's just really, really, really bad. And then the apology itself wasn't that bad either. Where's the apology? It's here. I thought the apology was very sincere, but it didn't get any love, no traction whatsoever. So this is her apology from the Twitter profile. I'm gonna put up on the screen. She says, "Hey everyone, as most of you know, I recently released some t-shirts with the slogan, 'Fuck the BPM Police.' I recognize my mistake and I wanted to explain that I'm deeply sorry and for the several reasons. First of all, for failing to see this slogan was insensitive, especially regarding the current events happening in the US. Now, the only issue I have with her, right, this is that, is she, for lack of a better word, how dumb is this girl? Like, legitimately. Because I'm on the side. I think the reaction was a bit over the top, but she's a little bit dim in it. Because I remember when the shirt first came out, she was getting some pushback. She didn't really listen to it though. She kept replying to everybody that was asking about when it was going to get restocked and stuff, and oh, I missed out. But she wasn't necessarily replying to the pushback, to the questions, to like the hey, why are you doing this in this moment? She didn't really offer any sort of explanation. She just kind of pushed it to one side, and then when the noise got too much, she kind of crumbled, deleted the picture, and then come out with an apology. And then now you're saying, oh, I should have known better because what's going on in the US. It's like, come on, man, figure it out. Read the room. And if anything, right, like if you're hell bent on selling these t-shirts, again, this is probably a really snide way of doing it, but it seems like the techno Twitter side that she's probably not going to be ever friends with on Twitter. The kind of people that would call her up on this are mostly on Twitter. So if she really wanted to sell the t-shirts and get no blowback, she should just put them on Instagram and Facebook. Because if you go through the comments on Instagram and Facebook of that "Fuck the BPM Police" post, you'll see not much. People don't really understand what the issue is. They're sort of like saying they're making a mountain out of a molehill, blah 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 blah. But she's so. It seems like she's so. What do you call it? She seems to be so unaware of what's going on around her that she can't even, discern where her fans are, where people are not so keen on her might be. It's a very bizarre way to kind of carry herself. But maybe she's just being willfully ignorant. I don't know. But I think that's the kind of faux pas she kind of had. Because even if you just explain and say, hey, I don't care about that stuff that's going on in the US. I'm whatever. I'm from wherever. I live in Berlin. I'm making this t-shirt. If you pay me, cool, right? Everyone knows where you stand. But don't, you know what I mean? Don't just like ignore it, pretend like you didn't see nothing, and then play dumb. I think as well she did that classic mistake of posting a black square and then releasing a t-shirt. That might be as well what added to the situation. So it's just error after error after error. But again, I still think some of the vitriol that's aimed at her is more so aimed at the industry itself. But let's just continue with the apology. So it says, first of all, for failing to see how it fits the slogan was insensitive, especially regarding the current events that's happening in the US. It continues, it says, secondly, from failing to see that my privilege, having never faced racial profiling firsthand from authorities, as well as living in Germany for 6 years, slowed me from understanding what now appears to be obvious. This t-shirt was in very poor taste. Definitely was, my dear. She says, I've done a lot of soul searching the last 48 hours. That's quick soul searching. I'm generally here to make amends. The first step was to, of course, to donate 100% of the sale benefits towards the campaign Zero, an organization that's focused to put an end to police brutality. I put the link in my bio if you wish to learn more about them. I was not sure if I should post the receipts here, but I'm happy to provide them. Anyone that asks for it. Yeah, she's groveling so much here. Yuck. The second step was doing a lot of reading on how to acknowledge my missteps and educate myself more and more in order to become a better ally in the future. My email is whatever it is there is always open for those who have suggestions on what I could do to go a step further. And also I want to thank all the people who reached out, talked to me in the last 48 hours, with whom I have lengthy conversations, talked things through. We are learning and how to become better people, and I hope you will forgive me. No, that's true, that's fair. I think people should forgive her. She's asking for forgiveness, she's being genuine about it. I just think, like I said previously, I just think she's more of a symptom of the situation. I think there's a group of DJs, a group of artists within the electronic music space who feel as if they've been ignored for far too long. They feel like they've been overlooked, especially in Berlin, I'd imagine, because it's a pretty monochromatic city, to say the least, when it comes to DJ lineups. So what I would like to see as a solution, because again, I think it's unfair that she's getting all this vitriol, because I don't think it's her. It's not her fault. I don't think Peggy Gou chooses, you don't choose to be the breakout star in the electronic scene and get all the money and get all the slots. That's not your choice. The scene does what the scene does, the machine does what the machine does. But the issue we have, which I've always said and maintained, is that the scene or the industry doesn't necessarily facilitate or help the middle tier to the bottom tier artists or acts, right? It doesn't necessarily create a functioning ecosystem for them to make enough money, to make a living, to gain a fan base, to tour, all that good stuff. So what I'd like to see once COVID is over is the bigger establishments set a precedent. Like imagine Berghain, imagine a sub club is probably a really good example, maybe a Fabric, these kind of big institutions to lay the marker and say, hey, we are committed to having a lineup that, forget the gender thing, just having a lineup that's more representative of our city and representative of the people that go there, because that's the most frustrating part. You go to these clubs, you go to these places, the crowd around you is, you know, it's a whole patina of people, right, from all different walks of life. But then you look up at the DJ booth and it's the same old boring names. That's what happens mostly at festivals, right? Festivals are probably a worse example of that, because usually festivals attract, like, you know, the general punter, you know, kind of casual fans of music, and they are really diverse, really wide ranging, especially if you go, you know, to a place like, I don't know, like a Love Box, right, or like a Primavera Sound is a better example. It's a very diverse group of people, but usually the people playing at the electronic music space section are just boring. It's the same old names, the same tired faces, because they just want to make sure they sell tickets and they get people through the gate. But I think it's a responsibility for those bigger places to set the precedent and say, hey, we're committed to making sure our lineups are reflective of the people that listen to this music, reflective of the people that create this music. And that's what you need to do, just so it can be a little bit more balanced. So if that means you have a slot in on the Berghain lineup or on the Panorama Bar lineup for a couple of people that aren't the quintessential wearing the Rick Owens white guys with flipping silver rings on, that's amazing as a first step. So that what happens is that you get those people in place, you allow them to play maybe, you know, every other month, maybe a couple of days during the week. That can then take the pressure off of someone like a Sarakin, who essentially is getting all the hate, is getting all the vitriol, because people look at him and think, hold on, you've been in Berlin for 6 years, you've been DJing for 4, you set up a little label in your bedroom, and now suddenly you're playing all over the place at festivals and clubs that I've been trying to send my demo to for 17 years or whatever. I understand why you may feel angry and annoyed by that, but I still think the frustration is kind of, you know, it's directed at the wrong person. It should be directed at the institutions that keep perpetuating this idea that, you know, the music that's being made at the moment is only being made by a certain group of people, when we know that's not true. We all know that's not true. You go to some of these, you know, stalwarts and heavyweights in the techno scene that play there, you know, you go through their set list, they're playing songs by everybody. They don't give a fuck who makes it. They're playing it from, you know, from some random kid in the middle of Chicago, or some kid somewhere in India. They're playing whatever is going to hit and slap in the club. So to not have those people that producing that piece of music, or that's influencing that music, to not be on those lineups, let alone for the people that kind of, you know, spearheaded and invented the music itself. That's a whole different conversation. But just for the here and now, I'd love to see, once COVID is over, a commitment from these big clubs to really diversify their lineups and just make it reflective of the people that are involved in the scene. That's all that people are, so that people like Sarakin aren't going to be, is that how you pronounce her name? Sarakin. People like her won't get all the hate when they're putting out a t-shirt, because people will have an opportunity to have a chance, because that's what people are getting annoyed by, right? She makes this t-shirt, she does that thing, she has a social misstep. When everything opens up, she's back playing wherever she wants. There's no sort of, like, you know, nothing sort of slows down for you. But when you're the vocal critic online of these sort of actions, I can understand why you'd feel as if like you're the one suffering the most, because, you know, a program director or an event manager will look at your tweets and how you go on online and be a bit perturbed and be put off. I don't want you because you might be a bit of trouble. So I think it really is up to the big establishments to put their best foot forward and try and rectify the situation. I think that would be awesome to see. Like, Panorama Bar has no excuse, right? Especially as a start. Panorama Bar, with all the house they play there, like, there definitely should be more black people playing in Panorama Bar. That's standard. And then from there, you just get other minorities that aren't represented on the lineup. Just get them all to be playing there more often. Get it to be more representative of the club. That's it, really. And then again, like I said, it takes a pressure off these people, that girls like Sarakin, who are in the middle and the lower tier, who are just, you know, making it happen for themselves anyway. It's not necessarily fair to kind of put the blame on them, but what a crazy situation, man. Really, COVID-19 is cancelling some random people. But again, I think there is a real skill to knowing how to read the room, man, and she just wasn't doing it. Because, you know, and that's the thing as well. Where are these people's friends? Like, doesn't she have any friends? Like, regular friends. Forget black friends, just regular friends. That would be like, babe, maybe that's not a good time to buy the t-shirt. Because again, a t-shirt isn't nothing to write home about. It's it's a good t-shirt, whatever. Design is whatever. Not that I'm not that hyped about it, but if ever there was a bad time to put out a t-shirt about fuck, and she's got a legitimate point as well, right? She's got this whole story about everyone telling her that she plays her music too fast, and she's this little girl that's breaking the norms of this patriarchy and electronic music, blah blah blah. There is a story towards that shirt. That shirt, it didn't come out of nowhere, but it's just so ill-timed, isn't it? So yeah, big up her anyway in general. I think people should forgive her. She's asked for apologies. She's made amends. She's done all the right things, really. Taken down the post, could donate her proceeds. She's done the things that she didn't need to do, really. If she was a real scumbag, she wouldn't have done those things. So let's give her some credit, and then let's stop kind of aiming our cannons at middle tier DJs who are trying to make it as much as anybody else, and aim it more towards the institutions that keep booking the same bloody lineups, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years in a row. Like, they're the ones that deserve a bit more of our vitriol, I would say. But hey, what do I know? Anyway, that's the Agostinho Zinga Show, episode number 341. Thanks so much for tuning in, as per usual. If it's your first time listening, make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe down below, and leave me a comment if you have any questions. If you're listening via the audio podcast, of course, leave me a 5-star review and share that show with your friends. Until next time, my friends, see you very soon. Take care, be safe, look after your family and friends, and if anybody that you don't like comes around your way, it's COVID-19. Put on a mask, ignore them. Good trick there. Take care. Peace.